So just having a quick look around the charts on Asia Open. So 10:30 here, so we're just underway. A little bit of a sort of risk on kind of sort of theme to things and that straight off the bat. So jump over to DXY in a moment. But first, just want to have a quick look at gold. So this is the trade that we were sort of looking through the last couple of weeks and that, sort of buying gold up from these lows here. Of course, if we flip onto sort of the gold chart, this sort of shows that great sort of channel that it was respecting. There's sort of three or four sort of breakout fake before it actually made its quick move. The other reason I'm showing this now is because if we flip over to what we're actually looking at currently, it's a very similar sort of price action. And as I said, these things sort of tend to repeat their style before, and certainly with gold, it doesn't make it easy to make any money. But once we saw this first sort of like little, it didn't seem to continue this channel, and sort of as it pushed off, this is probably an early indicator. I expected a little bit of sideways action to come back to this main trend here, but once this broke, you can see there's a quick little sort of bounce back up here to try and sort of recover this. But you had the confluence of the sort of horizontal support plus what should have been this rising support. Both of those broke, and bang, as you can see, prices sort of come down. So we're just coming in around, get a couple of these older lines out of the way. I need to sort of update these a bit more. But we're sort of coming, as you can see, just around the sort of 50% retracement from the lows back on the 21st up until the most recent highs. Bang, and we're sort of pulling back here. You can see this if we jump down onto a lower time frame, depending how you want to sort of cut this. I mean, we could also sort of be saying that this probably sits a bit more along this sort of angle here. However, point's still the same, that you've got these sort of points here where it's respecting this line. So this is starting to shore up. We know that this is sort of like where the sellers are kind of moving down with this line here. We see this first break last night. Okay, bang, particularly with this big bottom wick here. This looks like one of those high heel bottoms. Boom, down, explosion coming up. Here we go, ready to go. We're closed outside the channel. There's obviously a big rejection from these lows here. And in typical gold fashion, back to underneath that sort of falling resistance. And this is why it's important to sort of like, look at the sort of previous price action to know that this is how gold typically likes to sort of trade. It's sort of like will sort of suck you in, and anybody that's put their stops early or move them too quickly, they get stopped out. It'll break you either financially or it'll break you mentally before you actually see this move, and then you'll start to see the move here. So obviously we're not out of the woods yet. So if we sort of have a look, this is the 1 hour here. So I mean, obviously the little areas of interest for us at the moment are going to be getting above the zone here, above the zone here, and then back up around these points here. For now, I can get this one out of the way. So this is the previous high from last night. As you can see, it's moving up towards another test of this here. If we can break this, then we're looking for the previous highs here, which we can see were respected twice, where sellers had quite a violent sort of sell-off from here around that sort of 28 zone. So get on top of, I mean, technically this would, I suppose, would be your swing high, but if I'd like to see it above 28 and a close above here to start to really go, okay, now we're going to sort of start to see a bit more of an upward move. As I say this, I've got DXY on another chart here, which is coming down quite nicely. So let's flip over to DXY. DXY, as you can see, I've been sort of trading Aussie long and gold long this morning based off this breakdown here. So you can sort of see it a little bit better. I think if we put it on the 4 hour, where do I have it here? But yeah, so certainly we've got this bit of a sort of channel, and these kind of drives up each time, they're just feeling a little bit weak. We can see that even as prices sort of moving up here, we've got a bit of a sort of divergence here, because this is sort of showing us where the buyers, the strength of the buyers. with each move. And as you can see, as price is moving up, the buying pressure is just not supporting it. So this is your negative divergence. We're seeing a break of this support here, which we can see here. And it sort of came close enough, but not quite on these ones. They're not big sort of reactions for it all. But as you can see, it was sort of coming up here, made a bit more of a sort of wedge top, and then bang, as you can see, we're seeing this early sell off here. So be interesting to sort of see how this follows through. Certainly on the lower sort of price, sorry, lower time frames, we're seeing early Asia is seeing that nice sort of sell down on DXY there. So if we see what's happening with Aussie, yep, and of course, we're getting that sort of that relative move on the Aussie as well. Aussie has just been just sideways through this zone the last couple of sessions. It's just been like ridiculous, basically. It's sort of like this is such a tight range for. I think this is better part. If we go back to this is Tuesday. What are we at? Sort of Friday morning now. So certainly after this big sell down, but we're seeing a nice sort of push early here. And again, it's coming in line with obviously Aussie isn't part of the DXY, but it's coming in line with a couple of other things. One is that DXY break and sell down, which obviously it's against the US dollar, but also sort of we'll have a look at China in a moment. China's smacking up into that zone where we know the PBOC like to intervene, and they're just sort of selling. I think we sort of got some data out yesterday, sort of showing how much sort of foreign currency China were holding, and that came in lower than previously, and also lower than expected. So I think that means that they're selling things quite hard. If we look on a higher time frame with Aussie here, we can see that sort of the buyers previously sort of back sort of was the sort of middle of August sort of came down here and tested these zones. So we know that the buyers are sort of sitting realistically under the 64 zone here, and this sort of sell down here, which was I can't remember, well, it was on some sort of news the other day, but that's obviously sort of punched us right down here. We've done the retest for the bears to try and sort of push this thing lower, but it's really, as you can see here, it's just been consolidating these lows in this zone over here the last couple of days. So certainly, as you can see, we've got a recovery sort of alert set up there. If we can get back above the 64 wick, um, so yeah, so the wick high of this day here, which is around the 64 zone, then we can be looking. I would say it's a fairly straight shot back up to 64.50 to be safe, but 64.60 technically should be able to sort of be seen because we've just, as you can see, all through this zone here, it's just really been. I mean, this is up and down at some stage, but it's pretty much one-way traffic. It's not sort of like choppy, like I guess it is a little bit sort of slower moving through here, but you're not seeing these up and down sort of buyers and sellers tossing and turning and that. You're seeing it just sort of really sort of carve through. So yeah, so certainly looking for, at least initially for this sort of falling resistance to be popped on the Aussie. We've got obviously a couple of little sort of horizontal resistance points in that, but above here, I'd expect at least sort of, yeah, up around that sort of 64.50 zone. That could be a pretty good sort of short-term target for us. So around this zone here. So if we flip across China's recovery. I mean, if you've seen my videos, I'm still sort of in the belief that yeah, we're coming back to this main trend, which of course, as I said, it's a sliding scale with it all. So the longer it takes to get back there, the higher that actual zone will sort of come to be. This 61% didn't really sort of get a sort of touch up, as you can see, barely. I made it past the 38. And I'd hit those where I sort of thought those stops would be, but then it's just exploded back out again. So this is interesting with China because this is the point where they've intervened previously, and obviously they've sold down and they've driven price down lower. It came down here for this sort of bit of a swing. It looks like it was breaking down. Even I thought this was sort of coming down at this point, and I was just like, "Oh, that's great. Here's the move it's playing out." And of course, boom, they sort of shoot it straight back up and that. So if we have a look, there's a little bit of a sort of a higher. So I mean, again, if you want to say they're the buyers, there's the buyers, and there's the buyers. So they've sort of come up on this sort of tighter rising support. So you can see that that's their second effort there. So again, these are the previous highs from back in November, where we saw a massive sell-off. I mean, if you look at that, that's from this zone. They sold it down 8.83%. That's a big sell down. So that's a very strong sort of intervene with that there. And so they've tried to do it again here previously. We're back up testing that again now. What they do now, not really sure. So we're just going to have to wait to see. You know what I mean? If they do decide to sort of drive it higher, you're still getting a little bit of this sort of wedge pattern. So even if they do get a bit of a blow off, I'd expect something sort of along these sort of lines. And as I said, I'm still looking to get a touch up of this main resistance. As to when it comes, well, you know, we're going to have to wait and see. But sort of, I think certainly with when the buyers are sort of step away from the main trend and they start to push it up, that can only sustain for so long. So we're going to see that push up, and then I would say potentially a roll out. I mean, this could take another month and a half or so, but we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. Copper, as I said, like if you've watched any of my videos, I've been trading copper since that break of the falling wedge. We had first price target hit, price pulled back, punched through, second price target hit, and it's just been absolutely hammered off that one there. So we're actually starting to see the 61% of this drive from the sort of main support. And if we zoom out, we get a better view of this. This is what we've really been trading here. So if I get rid of this for 2 seconds, um, you can see this large triangle, which it's been respecting. And this is why we had the price target on the touch up of this zone just here. That was the price target that we had sort of set for this latest move as it sort of came out of that sort of falling wedge. Which, you know, it's hit, the market's agreed, okay, yep, it's gone. So I think we're definitely getting to a very pivotal point with copper here, whether we're going to break down or break sort of further up, you know, time will tell. But at the moment, sort of, I mean, the dollar is just getting bought up non-stop. So that would tend you to sort of think, and I mean, the sort of fundamental landscape sort of looks like it's probably more leaning to the downside. Um, but in saying that, if we do get a dollar sell-off, the dollar's been bought up, I think this is week 8 straight of gains. So it's got to have some sort of cooling off soon. I know, famous last words. But you'd think sort of if that can sort of calm down and sort of sell off a little bit, that may provide the power that copper needs to sort of push through and test and actually try and sort of get outside. I mean, the main highs you'd be looking to sort of break at the moment would be these ones from back in sort of end of July, where price sort of attempted to break out of this large channel, but of course was sort of smacked back in its place. So we're going to have to sort of see how this one sort of plays out. But for now on that, we're seeing sort of a little bit of a reversal from that push on sort of US dollar and also on the Aussie. So it looks more just sort of like a little bit more ranging just for now. And we're going to have to sort of see how the rest of Asia. There's not really much news coming out today, so I expect it to be a little bit more of this sort of sideways action. But really, we need to get above 64 if we're going to see sort of some recovery. If we sort of start to get down below sort of 63.50, well, I think that's pretty much good night for the Aussie bulls in this sort of leg anyway, and I expect to sort of move down towards 6,300. Cool. All right, that's about it for me now.